The late afternoon sun poured through the stained glass windows of St. Anne's Catholic Church, scattering reds and blues across the pews. Michael Donovan sat in the second row, beads of his rosary coiled loosely in his hands. He had been praying the rosary every night for years, almost like clockwork. Yet lately, he felt nothing. No peace, no warmth, just emptiness. Like whispering into a canyon and hearing only his own voice echo back. That night, as he knelt before the crucifix, he whispered, "Lord, why do I feel so far from you when I pray the rosary? Am I doing something wrong?" The silence in the chapel was heavy, but in his heart came a stirring as though someone had quietly entered his thoughts. Words, gentle yet piercing, seemed to rise within him. "My son, let me show you why your prayers feel empty. You love me, but you're caught in mistakes that steal away the life of the rosary. Walk with me, and we will set them right." Michael closed his eyes, and thus began a journey. One that would open his eyes to 10 hidden mistakes that many faithful Catholics in America and beyond had fallen into. It started the very next evening. Michael came home from work, exhausted, still thinking about the invoices on his desk and the arguments at the office. He grabbed his rosary and began, "Hail Mary, full of grace." His lips moved, but his mind drifted back to the deadline looming tomorrow. By the time he reached the third Hail Mary, he realized he hadn't thought about God once. Frustrated, he slammed the beads onto the coffee table. What's the point? I'm just rattling off words. That night, he dreamt of sitting at a grand dinner table, laden with food. Yet as he ate, his thoughts wandered outside the window. When he rose, his plate was still full. He left hungry. A woman, radiant yet maternal, appeared beside him. "Michael," she said softly, "that is what you do when you pray with your lips, but not with your heart. You sit at the feast of grace, but walk away unfed." He woke with tears in his eyes. The next day, before starting the rosary, he paused. He took a deep breath and whispered, "Lord, I'm tired. Mother Mary, I don't even know how to focus right now. Please be with me." Then he began. To his surprise, the words felt less like a routine and more like a conversation. Michael learned his first lesson. The rosary is not about saying many words quickly, but about being present in love, even if just for a moment. Weeks later, Michael attended a parish rosary group. The leader announced they would pray 3 full rosaries in one sitting, all 15 decades. People began racing through the prayers, voices overlapping, as if counting down to a finish line. Michael tried to keep up, but the speed made his head spin. Afterward, one woman cheerfully said, "Well, that's 3 rosaries done. God must be happy with us tonight." Michael forced a smile, but something felt wrong. That night in prayer, he admitted, "Lord, are we just trying to earn points with you?" Again, the gentle stirring in his heart, "My son, I do not count your words. I seek your love. 100 rushed prayers mean less to me than one whispered with faith." Michael remembered his own marriage years ago. Every night he brought his wife a bouquet of flowers. But if he had given them only out of duty, without tenderness, what meaning would they have held? The rosary, he realized, was not a contract with God, but a school of trust. From that day, Michael prayed slowly. Before each decade, he paused and pictured the mystery. When he meditated on Christ crowned with thorns, he asked himself, have my own sharp words ever wounded someone as those thorns wounded him? That single question pierced deeper than dozens of hasty prayers. Not long after, Michael's routine fell into another trap. Between cooking dinner, helping his grandson with homework, and answering phone calls, he would squeeze in the rosary quickly. Multitasking. He muttered Hail Marys while stirring pasta sauce, while driving, while half listening to the evening news. But one night, the words of Psalm 46 surfaced in his heart, "Be still, and know that I am God." He remembered a conversation with a priest years earlier. The priest had told him, "When you rush through the rosary, it becomes background noise, like a man saying, 'I love you' to his wife while staring at the TV. Without silence, the heart cannot listen." That hit Michael hard. The next evening, instead of multitasking, he sat alone in his living room, turning off the TV, silencing his phone. Before each decade, he paused for a deep breath, let the silence sink in, then began slowly. At first, it felt strange, even uncomfortable. But soon, he felt a warmth in his chest, as though the stillness itself was a prayer rising to heaven. The rosary no longer felt like a race. It was becoming a gentle walk with Mary. It was a stormy Friday night when Michael stopped at his daughter's house. She had hung a rosary from the rearview mirror of her car. "Dad," she said proudly, "I keep it there so nothing bad will happen while I'm driving." Michael smiled faintly but felt uneasy. Later that evening, at a parish meeting, he overheard others say the same thing, "Just put a rosary in your pocket, and you'll be safe." That night, as the rain pounded his window, Michael prayed, "Lord, are we using your mother's gift like a charm?" A memory rose within him of Pope Leo XII's warning he once read, "Superstition is when faith turns into magic." When we trust objects instead of surrendering our hearts. He suddenly realized, a rosary on the dashboard does nothing if the heart is cold. Beads under the pillow mean nothing if the lips never pray. In a quiet vision, Michael saw people clutching rosaries like shields, but their lives were filled with dishonesty, anger, and pride. A voice spoke, "If prayer does not change you, what good is the object in your hand?" From then on, Michael explained gently to his daughter, "Sweetheart, the beads aren't magic. The power comes from the prayer, from the trust you place in Jesus through Mary." She nodded slowly, realizing she had been treating the rosary as a lucky coin. For Michael, this mistake was a wake-up call. Faith could not be reduced to superstition. The rosary was not a talisman, but a pathway into love. One Sunday morning, Michael attended Mass and stayed after for a parish rosary. He noticed that during each decade, people announced the mystery quickly, the Annunciation, and then hurried straight into the Hail Marys. No reflection. No pause. On his drive home, Michael thought, did we really pray the Annunciation? Or did we just mention it in passing? That night, while fingering the beads, his mind wandered back to the Gospels. He pictured Mary in the humble home of Nazareth, the angel appearing, the light shining. For the first time, the mystery felt alive. He realized that for years, he had skipped the most essential part of the rosary, meditation. Without it, the prayers were like music without melody. Words, but no meaning. Michael remembered the words of a saint he once read, A rosary without meditation is like a body without a soul. He thought of his own struggles, fear of financial loss, anxiety for his family's future, and placed them in the mystery of Jesus sweating blood in Gethsemane. Suddenly, his burdens felt lighter, as though he was not carrying them alone. That evening, he told his parish friends, "Don't just name the mystery. Enter it. Live it. Let it mirror your own life." Some looked surprised, others skeptical, but a few nodded in agreement. For Michael, the rosary was no longer about counting prayers. It had become a living gospel in his hands. Michael's neighbor, Mrs. Hernandez, came knocking one afternoon, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Please pray a rosary with me," she begged. "If I say 10 of them, maybe God will give my son the job he needs." Michael sat with her and prayed, but her words felt more like a contract than a plea of love. After she left, he found himself wondering, have I done the same? Have I treated prayer like a business deal? Memory surfaced of times he had whispered, "Lord, I'll say 3 rosaries if you fix this problem for me," when his prayers weren't answered as he wished. Disappointment had turned to bitterness. That night, in prayer, he remembered Mary's yes at the Annunciation. She didn't strike a bargain. She simply surrendered, "Be it done to me according to your word." Michael understood that true prayer wasn't about getting what he wanted. It was about being transformed to want what God desired. He thought of an old story he once heard about a young woman who prayed the rosary daily, begging to marry a certain man. But when that failed, years later, she found a husband who shared her faith and prayed with her every evening. Looking back, she whispered, "Mary gave me something better than I ever imagined." Michael let out a deep sigh of relief. Perhaps unanswered prayers weren't rejection at all but redirection. From then on, he ended each rosary with the words, "Lord, if this request brings me closer to you, grant it. If not, teach me to accept your will." Michael was beginning to see the rosary in a new light. But even as his faith grew, more lessons awaited him. He had discovered presence, avoided superstition, and begun to meditate deeply. Yet there were still other mistakes that threatened to choke the life of his prayer. The next stage of his journey would teach him where the rosary leads, who it must embrace, and how it demands not only faith but transformation. It was a bright Sunday morning when Michael noticed something odd. Many of his friends prayed the rosary faithfully but rarely attended Mass. Some even said, "I pray every day. I don't need to go to church." That evening, Michael reflected, can the rosary really replace the Eucharist? In prayer, he felt a gentle voice say, "The rosary is the road. The Eucharist is the destination." Memories returned of kneeling at Mass as a child, his mother whispering, "Every Hail Mary leads you closer to this altar." He suddenly understood, if he prayed the rosary but neglected the Mass, he was walking the path but refusing to enter the banquet hall. From then on, before every Sunday Mass, Michael prayed a single decade slowly, asking for the grace to receive Jesus with reverence. During Eucharistic adoration, he would take his beads and let each Hail Mary become a love song to the Lord in the monstrance. The rosary no longer stood alone. It led him directly into the heart of the Church. One evening at his parish rosary group, each person was asked to share their intentions. Michael realized most requests were personal jobs, illnesses, family struggles. Important, yes, but limited. He remembered something Pope John Paul II once said about offering the Rosary for the whole world. That night, Michael tried something new. With each decade, he chose a different intention: for priests, for the lonely, for victims of violence, for young people searching for faith, for souls in purgatory. As he prayed, he felt his heart widen. The Rosary was no longer a private shelter. It had become a bridge to the suffering world. Later, he told his grandson, "Every bead can be a gift for someone else. When we pray for the world, we carry it with Mary straight to her son." For the first time, the Rosary felt like a mission, not just a comfort. Still, doubts crept in. Some days, Michael wondered if his prayers really mattered. Was God listening? He remembered the story of Saint Monica, who prayed for her son Augustine for 17 years before seeing his conversion. What if she had given up in year 10? One night, Michael's thoughts turned to a priest he admired who once said, "Faith is not proven by answered prayers, but by the prayers you keep saying when no answer comes." So Michael began a new habit. At the start of every Rosary, he whispered, "Lord, I believe. Help my unbelief." Even when nothing seemed to change, the act of trust itself became an offering. His Rosary was no longer about results. It was about fidelity. Months passed. Michael prayed faithfully, now with presence, meditation, surrender, and faith. Yet one evening, he snapped at his wife in anger, then sat down to pray the Rosary as if nothing had happened. Halfway through, he froze. What good is this if I cannot love the people in front of me? He remembered the words of James, "Faith without works is dead." The Rosary was not meant to soothe his conscience while leaving his heart unchanged. From that day, he made a quiet vow. Each mystery would call him to a concrete act. If he prayed the Visitation, he would call an old friend. If he prayed the Scourging, he would practice gentleness with his words. If he prayed the Resurrection, he would bring hope to someone discouraged. The Rosary was no longer confined to his lips. It began to flow into his hands, his actions, his very way of life. 1 year after his journey began, Michael knelt again in the quiet chapel of St. Anne's. The beads rested in his hands, worn and smooth. He prayed slowly, breathing deeply, no longer rushing, no longer bargaining, no longer counting. Each word was alive. Each mystery was a window into Christ's life. Each prayer reached beyond himself into the world. And most importantly, each Rosary was shaping him into a man who loved more, forgave more, and trusted more. When the final Amen left his lips, Michael smiled. The Rosary was no longer a burden or a duty. It was a rhythm of life, a melody of love, a path that always led him home. My friends, perhaps you too have fallen into these mistakes. Maybe you've prayed without presence, rushed through, treated the Rosary like a bargain, or forgotten its call to transform your life. But like Michael, you can begin again. Tonight, right now. The Rosary is not magic. It is not a contract. It is a journey, one that leads to Jesus through the gentle hands of Mary. And now, I ask you, what do you think about the struggles of faith? Especially when it comes to violence, injustice, and the wounds of our world? How do you believe prayer can change not just hearts, but society itself? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. This is not just a story, it is an invitation to dialogue. Let us speak honestly, with courage and faith, about how we can live the Rosary not only in prayer but in action.